Okay, and again, we're at the May Metal Investors Forum. I'm speaking with Jeff Wilson. He's CEO of Precipitate Gold. Precipitate is a company that I follow in the newsletter. It's also, fairly well known to my readers that I, way back in the day, was one of the founders of it, and I'm still a substantial shareholder and a happy one. I wanted to talk to you about your near-term plans. I mean, PRG did a drill program late last year, but you had guys in the field working on generating other targets in addition to what was tested late last year. And there's a couple of areas in particular that you've been putting out news on. I mean, one's called the East Anomaly that it's a very impressive looking anomaly.
Yes. Yeah. No, our plans coming out of the last round of drilling, which the drilling took place in November, December last year, as you know. Results of that came out early this year. And although there were some anomalous values there, they were a little bit, not quite the kind of the extent that we were looking for in terms of mineralization and gold. But what they did offer us, because this is such a new project and we're so early on in the process here with only 11 total holes into the primary target, it did give us a lot of information about where we are in a system, or potentially where we are in a system. And we use that as guidance for looking at where we go next. And so what that's allowed us to do is to step a little bit outside of the Ginger Ridge, or broaden the Ginger Ridge from a sampling and mapping perspective. And in doing so, we've discovered this new zone, as you mentioned, east of the Ginger Ridge, or Ginger Ridge East anomaly, that's proven to be very rich in terms of its concentration and consistency, both in gold, but as well as base metals like lead and zinc. And so this is a real new sort of layer, a new dimension to that specific zone that wasn't known to us before, and is a really nice tie-in to something similar that was identified, as you know, by GoldQuest just across the concession boundary. Right. So you have this VMS discovery that's reported by GoldQuest early this year. We then go out and do some mapping and sampling in an area that looks to be on trend from that, and within about 2, maybe 3 kilometers along strike, and start to see very consistent, very enriched mineralization in a new part of our zone that we're starting to think is a key priority target for drilling.
And and that's not all, because I know that you've also got crews, and on a much broader scale, because it's a fairly large project. You've got guys out doing IP surveys still, and I know that's been going for months. Mm-hmm. And you've also had crews out on completely different areas within that bigger property. So yep. Can we expect to see some news from those areas as well?
Absolutely. I mean, in preparation for the drilling, and admittedly, the news flow has been tempered a little bit in the last couple of months as we've been really just doing a lot of work, hunkered down, doing work on the ground. But there's been a lot of activity in the field, as you point out. The results of that geophysical survey, which frankly, some of that stuff started late last year, and we were into that in November and December. So it's been a really extensive amount of IP. Geophysics, as you know, has been very critical for exploration in that entire belt. GoldQuest, ourselves, Unigold. So this is critical data that's being gathered from, like you say, a large portion of the project area well outside of Ginger Ridge. And intentionally, strategically, we've been doing that work through the early part of the year because, the weather starts to get warmer and hotter, and there's a fair bit of hoofing around the project. And so to be able to do that in the spring and summer, springtime, get our ducks in a row. Then as June and July roll around, the drill programs are underway, but we can then start to feed into the market the results of that IP work. And the hope there is that one or more of the 5 big zones that we're testing with that IP shows the right kind of geophysical signatures that lead us towards identifying one or all of those as possible follow-up drill targets.
Now, of course, people like, investors, traders, they like to know that there's, drilling, say, going to happen soon. So we're the first week of May right now. I mean, do you think we can expect to see another drill program fairly soon?
Yeah, the plan going forward here, and I think we've sort of maybe intimated this in some of our last couple of news releases, is that we are now starting to definitively see targets for a follow-up round of drilling. We wanted to make sure that we had good, viable, worthwhile drill targets to follow up, because admittedly, on the back of that last round of drilling, there was a little bit of head scratching. Mm-hmm. We've now enlightened ourselves in terms of how we would want to drill it and where, and that drill program I expect to have underway before the end of May. Okay. Perhaps within the first couple of weeks or before maybe the third week of May, something like that. So yeah, we're ramping up to commence that drill program, and specifics on that. We've got a fair bit of leverage and wiggle room in terms of meterage and number of holes. We're well financed. We've got today just under about $2.7 million. This program I wouldn't expect to come in at any more than maybe $750,000 tops. So we can get a fair bit of work done, somewhere between 6 and 12 holes, without exhausting the current treasury. And what that allows us is the flexibility to continue to pull back, to test a distinct zone, something like that. So we've got a lot of flexibility and wiggle room to try to make this drill program as effective as possible.
Okay, sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Great, thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate it.